Hello, it's good to be back. Welcome back to episode 9 of the Latics Lowdown. You'll notice we've got a bit of a change of scenery today. I'm back home from uni, so we're back in Wigan, back in sunny Wigan. It's not so sunny at the minute, I must say, but we are back. We've got a temporary background until I'm back in uni. I've tried to put a bit of Latics je ne sais quoi into it as much as we can. So I hope you enjoy the new background for now. But sorry, first off, for not being here last week. Latics decided to do nothing, to be quite frank. They decided to do absolute niche for a week. Obviously, with getting back from Spain, it's understandable as to why barely anything happened, especially on the transfer front. We'll get into a couple of rumours that we did have last week that obviously we weren't here to cover as we get later into the show. Much of a muchness, to be honest. I wouldn't take much from either of the links, but we'll cover them as we go through today's show. But we've decided, as per usual, to save what I would say, and I said this on Twitter earlier today, if you don't follow me, get across to Twitter and follow me. I would say, especially if it comes off and we pull it off, I would say we have saved our biggest bit of transfer news, probably that will be for the season, for the morning of today's show. So thank you, Latics, as per usual, for trying to job me in it last minute. I suppose that is karma for not being here last week. Hello, Hugh, mate. Nice to see you back. But yeah, should we get into it? First things that we'll cover today will good evening indeed, Brandon. Good evening indeed. Bits that we've missed over the last week, with obviously me not being here last week again, apologies, but we didn't do much. It was more things going on around us that I would have covered, to be honest, and it wouldn't have made for a very good episode, so I just decided to leave it and do a 2-week version. Things that we've missed, right? Daniel Imrie has gone to Blackpool. This is a player that me and Gabriel Sutton, if you haven't watched episode 7 with Gab, I'll go back and watch it. We spoke about wing-backs, midfielders, what it takes to get out of League One, 5 players that we think we should be looking at. Daniel Imrie was one of them that we touched on. He has now gone to Blackpool. At the time, it looked as though he was going to Huddersfield, so I don't know what's gone on there. But Daniel Imrie has gone to Blackpool. I must say, I am disappointed because he is a top player. And I mean, at 21 years old, look at the size of him. He's an absolute unit of a right wing back. So he would have been excellent. And I think we've seen, particularly at Accrington away, I was at that game, and at Chorley as well. I'll cover it more later in the show, but wing backs is somewhere that I feel that we should really be pressing on with now and really be looking to bring somebody in. Of course, the current transfer rumour that I'm referring to in the early stages of this episode that we'll get into later is a midfielder, but I would be looking primarily at the minute at wing backs. That's not to say that you can't look at midfielders as well. Like, I'm not being funny, but they can multitask our recruitment team. I'm sure they can, but I'd be prioritising wing backs at the moment because from what I've seen in pre-season, it is the house of cards could crumble if we don't sort out wing backs for this Ryan Lowe system very, very soon. Another bit of transfer news away from Latics that we have seen is David Akagbu. This is a player that we were linked to a couple of weeks ago now when Toby Civic was rumoured to be leaving for Burton. Obviously, Toby has now gone to Burton. He has gone to Peterborough, David Akagbu. I have seen poor reviews, to be honest. I was going to say mixed reviews, but if I'm being honest, it's poor reviews from Walsall fans. Now, we touched on this last time, that Walsall players in that second half of the season will get negatively reviewed, and in the first half of the season were really ravely reviewed by Walsall fans. So I wouldn't look too much into it, but it doesn't matter anyway because he's not coming to us. He's gone to Peterborough. So that is David Akagbu not coming to Latics. The Toby Civic replacement hunt will continue, I suppose. I've seen some rumours linking us to a player from, I believe it's Bath. I'm sure someone will have seen this somewhere. If someone's seen this, do feel free to jump in the comments. There's some 6'6" player. It's either Truro or Bath, but he's been linked to the EFL and the MLS, and he's like 19 and he's 6'6". I've been told somewhere I won't reveal too much, that we are looking at him. Again, that could be wrong, but you know, that's just what I've heard. Connor Taylor's still available. Yeah. The issue is that Toby Sibbick holds quite a weird position in our squad, in that like he was never really going to play that much because of the emergence of James Carragher. So for someone to come in on that right hand side of defence, they're going to have to be a very specific kind of player to come in and play that role and be willing to be a backup. Isaac Lee, there we go. I believe that is correct. Binton Town in the Welsh. Yes, I believe that is correct. Again, I can't say for certain that we are linked to him by any sense of the imagination, but from what I've heard, it is someone that is on the radar at least. But that's just what I've heard. Not seen the link, but will be a great signing. Yeah, being 6'6" at like 19. I mean, I've seen it with other defenders that have come out of this league. Like, if anybody remembers Elkan Bagot from Ipswich, like he was like, and then obviously Ipswich accelerated at such a pace that he kind of got left behind, had to go out on loan, and we've not really heard much of him since. But these sort of defenders that can come from nowhere. I mean, you think of like Ronnie Edwards at Peterborough. Dan Burton comes to mind. Yeah, 6'6" at 19 is outrageous. I believe he's 19 or 20. That is an absolute joke. I don't understand how people grow to that height so quickly, but fair enough. But that's David Akagbu anyway. The Toby Sibbick hunt for a replacement continues, and a player that I didn't necessarily be expecting to be going out the door this summer, but it looks as though he is going to be on his way. That is Dion Rankine. Dion, as I said, he's not a player that I necessarily felt would be on his way. He's a player that I thought would suit the system, being obviously that right wing back that he was at Exeter. He's a player that I thought wouldn't be a first choice, but could certainly suit the system more than, say, a Johnny Smith, who I've harped on about Johnny Smith and this wing back experiment that we seem to be doing. I'll touch on it more later in the video because we will be going through the Accrington Stanley game, and we will be going through sort of a bit of analysis on that with the season like nearing now. So I'm going to do some analysis on the Accrington game, so stay tuned for that later in this video. But this Johnny Smith at wing back experiment, spoiler alert, I've said it for weeks, it needs to stop as soon as it possibly can. And so Dion Rankine, I felt, was a better fit for that. And so him leaving, if you've not seen, he's been linked to Crewe, who he went to the pre-season game while we played Accrington. He's also been linked to Barrow, and I believe, was it Burton, the other team that he's been linked to? But it looks as though Crewe are leading that race to sign Dion Rankine on potentially a loan. So it'll be interesting to see where he ends up. A loan deal is what I would do. I've seen people saying just to flog him off and get as much money back as we can for him. But personally, I would like to see him go out on loan because, like I said, he did play that wing-back role quite well at Exeter. And I do see potential in Dion Rankine. I just think it's one of them where he's dropped out of youth team football, which is a very high-paced and sort of a load of take-ons out wide and less physicality. And he's dropped into men's football and it hasn't necessarily translated. But in League Two, if he goes and plays and has a confident season where he goes and gets goals and assists from wing or wing back, he could come back into the fold next year with a bit more strength about him and he could really kick on. Matt, where would you play Johnny Smith? I'll get pelters for this. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I've said this before and I'll say it again. I love Johnny Smith, right? He is excellent at cutting in from the right wing and bending it into the top corner and providing limbs, right? He is brilliant at that. Even taking people on out wide, he's great. But he's a winger. And we don't play wingers. So I've got to be honest. Off the back of probably his best season, certainly his best of his 2 seasons in a Latics shirt, I would probably look to move him on. I've got to be honest. Which I know won't be a popular thing. But what are we gonna do? Are we gonna play him at wing back for a season and just he's gonna have a mediocre year at best? and then we'll try and sell him because we then realise that he doesn't suit the system, but he's just had a poor year, so you're going to get less money than what you get for him now. Yeah, I know, Hugh. It is an unpopular opinion, but he's not. He's going to be right. He's going to be 29 at the end of this season. He might even be 30. I'm not too sure. Let's go 29. He's going to be 29 at the end of the season. He's going to have had a season out of position where he's played meh, potentially been a sub player again, like he was in his first year here. And then we might well get to the end of the year and go, right, we've tried this, it doesn't work, we need to sell him on. And then his value's just going to have plummeted from what you could get for him now. So I love him. I do love him. But I just don't see where he fits in. I like the idea of him playing as a right-sided striker. Well, even then, I can't say I liked that idea. I just thought it was a better idea than him being at wing back. But I just don't foresee it. And I agree, Hugh. But this is part of the problem in that he was our only player that actually shoots. But it doesn't have to be that way anymore. We've got 2 strikers. We have 2 wing backs that are both basically wingers at this point. But you do have defensive responsibility, which is why Johnny Smith, in my opinion, doesn't necessarily suit this. I also think, in fact, I'll save this for the analysis later on. But Dylan, this is a very good point as well. Murray and Hungbo would be my starting choices at wing back. I came out of the Accrington game thinking the exact same thing, mate. I came out of the Accrington game thinking the exact same thing. A few people around me thought the same. Brandon, flog him. He's a Maloney player and not a low one. And I think that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, is that it is a system thing. It is nothing against Johnny Smith because, and this is the annoying part, is that we could sell him to a mid-table to playoff team, and he could go and score 10 screamers and get 5 assists and really contribute for someone. And I don't doubt he'd come to the brick and he'd bend one in our top corner. But he would do that from playing at right wing. And ultimately, he's not going to play right wing for us because we don't play a right winger. So, you know what I mean? While there's value there to be had. So, example, if I offered you, sell Johnny Smith for 400 grand, and we go and sign Jody Jones for 800 grand. But unless you sell Johnny Smith, you're not going to be able to afford Jody Jones. Would you do it? Because I would, because he's a natural wing back and it would fit better with the system. Joe Hungbo did very well in the last 6-7 games of last year, coming on at wing back, and a few he started. I agree, mate. I agree. Murray did look really, really good. Hungbo looked all right again. Yep, completely agree. That's another thing I'd say, Hugh, is that if I offered you, Matt, at 1,000%, well, whatever that percentage is, I can't count the zeros right now. This is another thing that I'll offer you, chat, before I move on to our transfer link. If I offered you right now, you can keep one and you can sell one. Joseph Hungbo, Johnny Smith. Who are you keeping and who are you selling? Because if you're going off last season and Maloney's time here, it's a no-brainer. It's Johnny Smith. But moving forwards, are we still keeping Johnny Smith in that debate? Matt's already in saying he's keeping Hungbo. So you know what I mean? It's certainly a debate to be had, is all I would say. Whereas this time last year, it was, let's absolutely Johnny Smith. I mean, I know we only brought Hungbo in the January, but you know what I mean? By the end of the season, you'd have kept Johnny Smith, I would have imagined. Anyway, let's move on to that absolute mind-blowing, almost like coma-inducing this morning for me, news of a transfer rumour coming in from Ben Jacobs. And that's somehow, some way out of nowhere. We have bid for Ethan, and I'm going to go with Erhahon. I have no idea if that's how you say it, but I'm going with it. So, Matt, already, right, I will kill this dead immediately, or pretty much immediately. I'll give you my very strong opinion. If Ben Jacobs has said we have bid for Ethan Erhahon, we have bid for Ethan Erhahon. I think the Paul Kendrick article, if you've seen it, that was released at around midday, talk of us going in for another midfielder. Sorry, thanks you. I believe it's pronounced Erhahon. That's probably right. Yeah, it's probably close to that. I'm gonna go with Iran because I don't know. I'll go with Erhahon. There you go. We'll go with that. We'll go with you here. We'll go with Erhahon. Anyway, I think if Ben Jacobs has said that we bid for him, we've absolutely bid for him, in my opinion. Ben Jacobs is absolutely brilliant journalist who rarely gets anything wrong on Premier League transfers, let alone League One. Like, it'll be like that to him to get this information. It won't be hard at all. Matt, I haven't seen that, but did see the Swansea outlets say that they haven't actually bid for him again. Potentially, mate, but like I just think when Ben Jacobs comes out and says something like that, Ben Jacobs gets everything right in the Premier League for the vast majority of it. He has no business with League One transfers. Like, he doesn't need to post this. Like, it doesn't get him any clicks. He's not one of those journalists that rely on Wigan and Swansea transfer rumours to sort of develop his career. So there's no reason for him to post this if it's not true at all. So I think that, partnered with the Paul Kendrick article, which was essentially, if you haven't seen it, Ryan Lowe talking about, due to the injuries to Harry McHugh, Barbara Deco, Matt Smith, that we are looking for midfield reinforcements. A lot of people have read into it that Matt Smith may be leaving because Lowe talked about the need for robust players who can play 40-odd games a season, which I wouldn't look too much into Matt Smith leaving as that sort of develops. I just think it comes down to, at the end of the day, Callum Wright still hasn't started his first match for us. He hasn't even got a minute for us. Babradiko's got a hamstring injury. Matt Smith has a thigh injury. Harry McHugh's broken a rib. Tyrese Francois, who he spoke about in that interview, is a player that needs to be managed when it comes to his minutes. So Paul Kendrick releasing that article just after the Ethan Erhahon bid. Well, yeah, bid. I'm not even quoting it. Bid. It's aptly timed. Now, look, one thing that I will say is that there are undoubtedly teams in the division above that will be after this lad. There will be teams high up in the division that we're in that will be after him. He's one of, if not the best midfielders at the moment that is available to go and get in League One. So undoubtedly this will be a highly contested deal to go and do. But would we bid if we hadn't? I think a lot of football now, you speak to the player before you even speak to the club. And if we'd have spoken to Ethan and gone, "Are you interested?" and he goes, "Not really. I've got better offers. I'm not really fussed," we wouldn't bother bidding. And we've seen reports come out around this lad earlier in the window that a bid of $1 million was rejected. So there's big money involved here. And I don't see us forking out that money if we hadn't already had some kind of communication with the player and, decided that this is something that's worth exploring. So, it's one to keep an eye on. Is it one that I think we'll do? No, purely because I think I can see him going to the division above. I think he's too good for this league. I think he's proven that. But again, would we bother bidding if we weren't interested in him and we didn't think it was something that we could do? Probably not. So it's one that I would definitely keep my eye on, and it would be an absolute steal of a deal if we could get that done, Dylan. If they want a club record fee, that'll be over 600 grand for Erhahon. Yep. Like I said, I've seen reports of $1 million from Swansea being rejected. So if that's true, then we're looking at serious money here. In which case, even if we don't get it done, it's shown that when there is a player out there that we are really, really interested in, we will go and we will offer up that money if it takes, whatever it takes. I've seen people saying, like, when it came to the striker situation, that we opted for budget when it came to Paul Mullin over Ronan Hale. I think personally that was more down to profile, that we've already got like Dara Costello and Samoa that are similar to Ronan Hale. But I saw people saying it was a budgetary reason that we didn't go for Ronan Hale. Clearly, it isn't to me. But yeah, surely we do have the money if we really want to play like him in. You would hope so. I mean, we do have a billionaire of an owner, so you would have hoped so. But I think it's more like it's less so having. It's one thing having the money; it's another thing being willing to spend it. And so being able to go out there and be like, right, we will drop 1.2, let's say, million on this one player instead of because let's face it, we needed to rebuild our entire squad this summer. So going and rebuilding a squad and also being able to go, this is our marquee player and we're going to put over £1 million on him is impressive. It's undoubtedly impressive. You got to give them credit if they go and get it done. If not, it's fine. Still, the fact that they were ambitious enough to go for it is something that makes me happy, especially if they go and they spend similar money on somebody else that they really like the look of. This bid will make sense when Tickle leaves for a club record fee tomorrow. Oh God! Don't even. I agree with Matt here. Just leave it out, mate. Let's not do that. Let's not. But anyway, we'll move on to some Accrington Stanley analysis, shall we? Because that's about it on the player front. No, it isn't. I'm telling you a lie. No, it isn't. We briefly, I'll catch you up from last week. We got linked to more strikers. More. Because we need more. Why not? Why more? The more, the merrier, am I right? So we've been linked to 2 over the last week. Now, I've got to be honest, I don't think either of them will happen. So I'll fly through them really quickly and then we'll get into Accrington. Joe Wesley, striker from Burnley, 20 years old, was on loan at Swindon last year. Scored a couple of goals. Like nothing, didn't pull up any trees really. So again, the link doesn't really make sense to me. But when we've already got 4, 5, if you count Chris Z strikers, you know, he'd be coming in as a 5th or 6th choice. So maybe there is a world where we would go and do it, but I don't see the point forking out any more money on strikers, in my opinion. I think we're pretty set there. And Jordan Rhodes, and I'm not even going to entertain the conversation of Jordan Rhodes because it's been blimmin' 12 years and we've never signed him. So what makes us think we're going to go and get him now? It's not going to happen, is it? For context, this week last year we signed Hugill and Thomas. Is that true? Was it this week last year? Wow. Yeah. Wow. That is interesting. Look, I don't like using a public platform to, you know, at all speak negatively, to be honest. Silverton wasn't that bad. He was the best loan. Yeah. But like that wasn't hard, was it? You know what I mean? But I don't like going after anyone or speaking negatively at all. Really, I'd prefer to remain positive even amongst the negative. But Joe Hugill is now at Barnet, and I have to say that it speaks volumes. Is all I'll say, because that lad, bless him. And I hope he goes and scores 20 at Barnet and kicks on and has a great career and starts up front for Man United and becomes and breaks Shearer's record, right? And because then I can say he played for Wigan and it was great. But he was woeful for us. And I'm sure he'll admit that. So I don't think I'm bashing him here. Like I'm sure he'll admit that his loan here was nothing short of terrible. So, but good luck at Barnet, Joe. Anyway, Accrington Stanley, we've put it off enough, shall we? Let's get into it, and then we can all go and watch who England will be playing in the Euros final later between Spain and Germany. I almost forgot them. Right, Accrington. Wigan have released the goals, so I've not got much to go off other than the goals. But before we jump into the goals, I will say I think it was interesting that Steven Sessegnon was brought into the fold. I'm sure, as Ryan Lowe said, injuries had a part to play in that. But he got a solid amount of minutes. He got about 30, 35 minutes from what I make of it. I could be wrong there. I was at the game and there was no scoreboard, so I couldn't tell you the exact minute he came on. But he got around that. Sorry. we'll digress. Reckon there's any chance of any Liverpool youngsters coming in after that friend? I hope so. Depending on who it is, as long as it's not Calvin Ramsey, I'm all right with it. You know. No, because there'll be loans, and Lowe doesn't want a load of loan players. No, he doesn't. You are right. I would say on that, Hugh, that, if there's a good look, like, put it this way, if that Rio Gamoa became available on loan, would you take him? Probably. So, I'm sure there's exceptions to that rule, especially with like us having so many injuries. You don't want to bring in so many permanent players, because then when everyone's back from injury, you kind of look around and go, oh, well, we've got like a squad of 40 now, and they're all going to be here next year. Loans can fill gaps, and they are useful. Neone, yep, Dylan. Neone, I agree. Neone's a good player. Anyway, Accrington Stanley. So, Sessegnon, it was interesting to see how many minutes he got. Lowe has opened the door to him potentially staying. He says he has nothing against him, and he's welcome to stay to an extent. He said he doesn't necessarily suit the system as a fullback, but if he can end up doing that role that he played as on the right-hand side of defence, then, there's absolutely an opportunity for him to come back into the squad. Fraser Murray, so I believe it was Hugh or somebody said before. Apologies, it's gone off of my screen now, but someone said Fraser Murray looked really promising. I agree. Thought he was the best player on the pitch, bar maybe Dara Costello. But Murray was excellent. I mean, I've always said I think Fraser Murray is our best bit of business so far. So I'm really happy that he got a really good 45 to 60 minutes at Accrington to really show what he can do. Other things to pick up on, I think the intensity in the second half compared to the first half was a lot higher, a lot better. I believe the strike partnership situation we're going to have to figure out very quickly. Now, I don't know if anyone knows and would like to put it in the chat. Please, I would love it if you could do that for me. What strike partnerships played against Liverpool's 21s? I don't expect anyone to know that, because I don't, and I don't even know if it's out there anywhere, what teams we played in each half or whenever. But the Paul Mullin-Christian Sadie partnership was something that for me doesn't work as well as other combinations that we can do. I think we know Mullin did. Cheers, you. So something that I believe is Paul Mullin and Christian Sadie need one of Costello or Asamoah for the legs in behind, because Mullin is obviously a bit of a poacher, relies on balls into the box. Christian Sadie likes to drop deep, get the ball to feet, turn, play over people. So for me, naturally, when it comes to that, you need a player with legs alongside one of those, and that is Dara Costello or that is Melise Asamoah. Asamoah and Costello partnership, in my opinion, doesn't need one of Mullin or Sadie. So I think Mullin or Sadie need Asamoah or Costello. I don't think Costello and Asamoah need Mullin and Sadie, if that makes sense. So I thought the second half strike partnership was miles better than the first. And I just thought the general intensity was. Now, a lot of people read into that as general intensity and effort, for want of a better word. Matt, my ideal is Sadie and Costello. Yeah, I wouldn't be against that. I thought Melise Asamoah was really good in that second half, though. It's up in the air for me between Sadie and him, to be honest. But a lot of people think that it was purely a sort of effort thing or energy. For me, the second half was just a more balanced team in terms of personnel once we'd made substitutions. I thought Leo Graham and Tobias Brennan really brought a lot to the game. I thought bringing on Hungbo and taking off Johnny Smith, I thought that gave us more, and bringing on McManaman, I thought that gave us more of a balance. I think personally, I'm more of a fan of the idea of having a left footer on that left-hand side and a right footer on that right-hand side. So if I was the recruitment team at the minute, I would be working to the bone to bring in a left-sided wing back and get Fraser Murray on that right-hand side. Dylan didn't Pompey fan say Sadie was more of a 10. Is it not an option to have Mullin and one of Costello-Asamoah just in front of Sadie? I agree to an extent. I think for me, Christian Sadie, and I've said this before to people around me, I think I've said it on here even, and I'll say it again. I think there'll come a point this season, whether it's in a cup competition or due to game state, we could be a goal up, a goal down, more likely a goal down. If we're a goal down late in a game, early in the season, I can see Christian Sadie playing in that midfield three just to get an extra striker on the pitch and having two strikers in front of him. Now, I think that at the moment we go, oh, this lad's a midfielder. I don't think he's a striker. I've got to be honest, I don't. Now, does that mean he can't play up front? No, like of course not. But I genuinely believe Christian Sadie's best position is as a midfielder. And I think there'll come a point in the season where we try that and it works really well, and then that'll just be his position now. So yeah, especially with our midfielders seemingly being made of breadsticks, there'll be opportunity for him to step in there every now and then, I'd imagine. I know he did an interview and said that he's coming as a striker, but your best position is midfield, your best position is midfield. I likened him to Joe Linton. I think, take that burden of goal scoring off of him, and I think you will see him fly, especially with his slight size, and he's really good on the turn. Yeah. That intensity change would have never happened under Maloney. He's unfortunately too caring of his own good. This preseason is giving me much more confidence when we go beyond, but it's not. Yeah, I agree to an extent here. I think the intensity change and sort of the work that's been put in Spain is massive. And you got to credit Ryan Lowe with that. Accrington. But keep getting your things in. I don't mind derailing myself to sort of speak to you guys. Of course I don't. But yeah, I thought that intensity change really, really came to Ryan in the second half. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant. We were a much better team in that last sort of 30, 35 minutes. And I really enjoyed the game. And it was a good day out. But some things that I picked up on tactically that I think help and hinder that intensity difference that we spoke about. So if you take a look here, I've screenshotted, guys. We're going in depth here. If you take a look here, this is my first valid view. Valid. That is a good point, mate. I agree. So, if we take a look here, we've got a freeze frame of the first goal that we conceded. Now, I'm not sure if you can quite see it. I hope that you can. These images, because I've screenshot mid-video, they're not the greatest. My apologies. The ball is on its way from Jason Kerr to Jensen Weir. Now, I've not got a screenshot of the touch that Weir takes, but Weir takes a touch to go to his left as he's facing the goal. So Weir turns out to the right wing back. Now, I'm not quite sure whether it's a tactical thing or whether it's Johnny Smith just being a winger, but he's too high, in my opinion. If this is a tactical thing and it's what Ryan Lowe wants, then who am I to, slay Ryan Lowe? But he's too high. in this situation, he's too high. So Weir turns out to play it to the wing back. Very quickly realises Johnny Smith is essentially stood holding hands with the fullback. And he turns back into midfield. He then plays the ball to Tyrese Francois, who takes a bit of a dodgy touch himself, which doesn't help. The ball is lost, and we end up in this situation where Aki have the break. Carragher's pulled wide in the first phase, and now he's kind of out of position for the defensive phase. We've got a man on the edge of the box who's got two men running on his left and the option to shoot. He takes the shot. Tickle doesn't move. I'd imagine he was unsighted. I can't see Tickle just not moving. And we concede. Right. So that's not ideal. So how do you fix it? Well, you get a natural wing back who's right-footed and is comfortable at taking that ball first time from Jensen Weir. And yeah, because also if you look toward the left-hand side, now I know the ball isn't on this side of the pitch, but Fraser Murray is naturally a little bit deeper than Johnny Smith. He's also free. And that's not to say Weir should have given him the ball, because in the position Weir's in, it's not possible. But I don't know, it's just something that I picked up on. I thought, because you can see that Weir, when he takes that touch, and I'm sorry, I can't use video, I would love to, but I can only use screenshots. Weir wants to get that ball to Johnny Smith, but with him being left-footed, with him being so high, he can't do that. And he has to turn back inside. At that point, he doesn't really know what he's doing. We learn it in primary school football. Have what you're going to do in your head before you get the ball. He has it in his head. He wants it to go to Johnny Smith. And as soon as that doesn't, that can't happen, turns back into midfield, doesn't really know what's going on. You lose track, and, it's a bit of a slow ball to Francois, who takes a dodgy touch. And it's a bit of a catalogue of errors that lead to us conceding the first goal. Second goal's a penalty, which, I'm not going to delve too deep into because it doesn't matter. Now, attacking wise, what did we do great? Now, this is in the second half. This is our first goal after some substitutions. Now, Tobias Brennan, can we have a moment, please? And I'll include Leo Graham in this. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Yeah, a lot seem to blame with that goal. Interesting assessment, debunks the scapegoat. Yeah, for me, it's not just Johnny Smith's fault. Absolutely not. Weir is at blame as well. I think, as a midfield player especially, you've got to have... And again, I don't doubt I'm going to get people on Twitter, or maybe even people in comments that'll be like, what level have you played at, right? But I can see it in front of me, right? Like, I'm watching it. I'm just giving my opinion. He is at fault as a midfield player at this level who has played for Brighton in their academy. Like, you should have enough up here to, like, when your first option isn't there, you should be able to turn back in and not play that slightly dodgy ball. So, to an extent, yeah. But if Johnny Smith's that bit deeper and he can get the ball out to him, we keep the ball, like, we don't do what we did. So, it's just little tweaks that are easy to do that, no one has to be at blame. It's just, if you're 5 yards this way and this option's available, then you can cycle the ball out and we're fine. We've got the ball still. Which is what pre-season's for, right? So, for all I know, Johnny Smith could turn into the best wing back in the league. We'll see. But, positives, Tobias Brennan. Now, Charlie away, I didn't know who he was, so I asked on Twitter, got it back. He looked all right at Charlie away. I felt like he had a bit of a nosebleed going forward. I'm unsure. Someone might be able to educate me here. In the academy, where does he play? Now, he'll be in the midfield, obviously, but is he an attacking player? Is he a defensive player? I've got my opinions on that. Him going into the first team, that I'll touch on in a minute. But this is brilliant from Tobias Brennan. And Leo Graham, in terms of on the ball, we'll touch on in a minute. But I just want to give Tobias Brennan his flowers here. Okay. That's what I suspected. Thank you, Matt. That's what I suspected. I'll get to that in a minute. But okay, good to know. So, this is great. This is brilliant. The front-footedness, the desire to go and get that ball. At this moment in the game, he's playing as a right-sided 8, which we've covered before. Yeah, Graham, I am aware, is more of a forward player who's dropped into midfield and looked brilliant, to be honest with you. But I'll get to him in a minute. Because in this thing, he isn't on the pitch at the moment. So, Brennan at this moment is playing as a right-sided 8. He's got Francois behind him, and I believe Ronan Darcy, or it might have still been John Mellish, on his left. So he's playing as a right-sided 8, which, going off of previous Ryan Lowe systems, is the box-to-box. It's the Panucci Kamara. And he does this brilliantly here. Gets right on the Accrington defender's back, presses him, makes him play a dodgy ball. The ball ends up spinning out to the left back, which, again, you can't really see him. But Maka is in there straight away, getting in there, digging in from right wing back, winning that ball back. It's brilliant press. It's brilliant front-footed play, which we didn't really see last season. I've got to be honest, from a Sean Maloney system, it wasn't front-footed. It wasn't high pressure. We would never have seen this sort of turnover in the opposition half, and it was beautiful to see. Maka really gets in there, off the back of Tobias, getting up further than an 8 typically would, to go and win that ball back. And we end up in this situation. When I watched this back, I nearly cried. I mean it. There's so many bodies in the box or on the edge. Where was this? Where was this last year? You know what I mean? It's brilliant. It's great. At this moment in time, the ball is literally connecting with Maka's foot for the cross, right? And Costello taps it in at the back post. But if Costello ain't there, Asamoah is on the front post. Fraser Murray, I believe, at this point in the game, it might be Joe Hungbo, I think it's Murray, is coming in at the back stick. We've got, I want to say, Ronan Darcy on the edge of the box. Tobias Brennan's plodding up. Francois is there for the rest defence. Carragher's even moving up in case it spins his way somehow. It's and you know what the worst bit is? It's just standard. Like this is normal, but we just haven't seen it in so long. Yeah, I'm careful not to dig him out too much, but like it is night and day to last year. It is night and day, and we see it again. We see it again for the second goal. How many bodies are in the box, lads? It's brilliant. It's great. It's lovely. It's absolutely class. I love it. We've got Sessegnon from right side of centre half going on an overlap. We've got Maka crossing it in. If he doesn't want to cross it in, I believe that's Leo Graham there waiting for a little knockback. We've got Tobias Brennan at this point who moves into the 6 for that rest fence. Exactly. I'm pretty sure. I mean, look at Tobias Brennan here in that defensive midfield spot. Look at Tobias Brennan. 18, 19 years old, by the way. He's exactly where Francois was. Literally, like, same blade of grass. Look at Francois in that DM position. Brennan. 18, 19 understands it to that degree. Now, of course, you're a 6. You should know where to play. You're a professional footballer. But he's obviously grasped. You've got to bear in mind as well, about 10 minutes prior, he's playing as an 8 and doing this and winning the ball back that high up the pitch. So to have that wherewithal within a game to go, right, I'm an 8, crunch. Like, get up there, win this ball back, Panucci Kamara style, Ryan Lowe, this is what he wants me to do. To understand that and to enact it, brilliant. And then to be told, right, Tobias, you're moving into the 6, and to be on the exact same blade of grass that Tyrese Francois, who is now like a, 23-ish year, 23, 24 years old, like you're a professional footballer now, you know what you're doing. To have that understanding, to know where to be in both the 8 and the 6, wow, I like him. I like him a lot. Last year, we only had Hugo walking into the box late, yep. And he ain't winning any Euroduels. No, I'm pretty sure he got one header. I think it was at Wrexham, and it was, it was harder to miss, to be honest. Would you start him? I'll get into that in a minute. Thank you, Dylan. Based off what we currently have and how preseason has gone, starting 11 for Northampton. Oh, here we go. We've got starting 11. Tickle, yes. Carrot, yes. Kerr, yes. Robinson, yes, because Ameson's suspended, isn't he? Murray, Hungbo, yep. Brennan, Weir, Mellish. I'm not so sure. Costello and Sadie, yeah, that's fine. I think Ameson's suspended for the first game. Yeah. So, Ameson's suspended for the first 3 games. Not great, is it? So that Toby Sibbett replacement that Okagbu was going to be might need to be, accelerated a little bit. But I think Lou Robinson's perfectly capable of playing on the left-hand side of a free. It just depends if he's injured or not. Back to what Matt said. Would you start him? Now, look, he's a kid. But we've seen it with Hughes. We've seen it with Tickle. We've seen it with Robinson. We've seen it with Adiko. We've seen it with Carl Joseph. We've seen it with Joe Gellart. Do I need to continue? Would I start him? Based off what we currently have, and that's including McHugh being out, Matt Smith being out, Adiko being out. Look, what I will say, based off what I've seen for him, is there much of a difference between him and Baba Adiko? Based off what I've seen, no. Now, I haven't seen him tested at League One level, so it's hard to say. But I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with Tobias Brennan in particular. Now, I'll move slightly on to Leo Graham here. Considering, as we've said before, we've clarified he was a forward player and he's moved into the 8 position. This is Leo Graham. I'm really impressed. I think the intensity he brings is brilliant. The zip that he has in the ball, like in getting the ball moving it, is great. But I'm more impressed with Tobias Brennan. I've got to be honest. And Leo Graham's great. And look, he'll definitely play games next season. And so power to him. He'll pick up cup minutes. But I think out of the two, Tobias Brennan really has the potential to go and steal someone's spot, if I'm honest. He's like, what, 6'2", 6'3"? His legs could stretch from here to the other side of the room. As that 6, now as an 8, I'm not so sure because there's attacking incentive put on you there. And as much as in this screenshot, I am in awe of the ability to go and win that ball back. When he's on the ball in that final third is where I would worry about him, and that is where I worried at Charlie. So if I'm worrying at Charlie, I'm probably going to be worrying in a big game in League One. But as that 6, in certain games when we need him, we have got an asset there without a doubt. And like Kai Payne is knocking about at Oldham. Our academy is a joke, you know. Like it shouldn't be. It's not fair. It isn't fair. Let's be honest. It's a cheat code. But Tobias Brennan, severely impressed. Leo Graham, impressed. Would I start him? No, but that's not. Would I start him? It's a good question, Matt. I'm going to bring it back up here. Let's think about this. First game of the season, if it was tomorrow, Matt Smith. Who are our 6s? Matt Smith, Babaradiko, Francois probably starts over him. Your ideal midfield 3, and I'll bring it back to what Dylan said as well, if I can find this. Your ideal midfield 3. Brennan Weir Mellish. It's probably Francois Weir Mellish. But then that is what started the game at Accrington. And it wasn't great. So maybe he's in for a shout. You know, he's in the squad. He's definitely in the squad based off what we've got at the minute. Now, look, if Erhahon comes in and, you know, that'll step in his way. And, you know, I don't doubt signings will be made and players will come back from injury and things will be there that put barricades in front of Tobias Brennan. But he will get cup games, without a doubt. He'll be in the squad for certain games, without a doubt. And power to the lad. Because, I mean, Ryan Lowe spoke about him and Leo going to Spain, and he said originally they weren't going. But then injuries and stuff meant they ended up going. And they have taken that chance with both hands. And Hughes touched on it here. There's Joe Adams as well when he recovers from injury. He always looked class, scored at Aki last year too. I agree, mate. Joe Adams will be good for that left-hand side. So basically, what we're saying here is that out of a triangle, there you go, out of a triangle midfield that Ryan Lowe plays, you've got your 6 who wins the ball back and progresses it forward, Tobias Brennan. Your right-sided 8 who gets forward, doesn't start the press, but is aggressive in a press, gets the ball and progresses it, Leo Graham. And your 10 who progresses it through the final third, makes late runs into the box, and creates Joe Adams. How have we got an academy midfield 3 that's like functional and works? It's outrageous. I agree, Matt. The academy scouts from last season need a medal. Miller, Spinelli, Brennan, Graham, Rogers. Yeah, it's outrageous. Because even within that, I mean, I've just touched on the midfield 3 there. Kamani Miller, sign a left side wing back, in my opinion, and move Murray to the right. Or Joe Hungbo kicks on. You almost don't want to put anything in Miller's way, you know. Like, you want either Hungbo if he kicks on, or a left wing back if we sign one, and then Kamani Miller to be the backup immediately. That's what you want, really, isn't it? Word for Weir doesn't look great at all. Weir's a strange one. again, like that goal that we touched on, and we've done a bit of a breakdown for. Like, it's not really his fault massively. Francois was taking a dodgy touch, and Johnny Smith wasn't available. It's just, does he do much in terms of creative as much as we would have thought that he would? Probably not. But we'll see. Moving on into the season, it's a big season for Jensen Ware. He's either going to be phased out or have a good year. Miller the next Chambers, but permanent and without the injuries. Hopefully, mate. If that turns out to be true, we are in for the money when we sell him, put it that way. And if them terms replicate the system, deep line playmaker / roaming playmaker, ball winning midfielder and attacking playmaker. If play FM, you understand. Mate, I play too much FM. Unfortunately, I've got it on my Xbox, so it's currently like 2024 FM, which is a bit of a nightmare. Because I'm pretty sure, in fact, no, I do know for a fact, Brennan doesn't even exist in that. So I can't do a Wigan save, unfortunately. But alas, we move. But yeah, that for me was the Accrington game in a nutshell. I think the intensity was a lot better. I think when we had natural, I was going to say natural wing backs, but McManaman and Hungbo are wingers. I don't know, like I'm trying to make excuses. Yeah, most of the players you were on about don't exist. Yeah, you're right. I'm trying to make excuses for Johnny Smith, and like other than the fact that he's a natural winger, I don't have anything. But like McManaman and Hungbo are, I just suppose, I'm pretty sure Hungbo has played wing back before at Rotherham, and McManaman obviously, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to tell you that McManaman has more defensive wherewithal than Johnny Smith. I just don't know. He just doesn't suit it, in my opinion. It's not the player he is. I'd sack this wingback experiment off, and I would try him up front. And if that didn't work, it is sell him or just keep in the squad for no reason, really. But that's my little breakdown of Accrington away. That'll see us through to the end of the episode, really. I think we've not really got much more to report as of right now. I'll have a quick look on Twitter in case anything with Erhahon has kicked off or anybody else within the last 52 minutes that we've been on here. But any more questions, feel free to ping them into the chat. As I just have a quick look through here. Oh, here we go. Apparently, it's been said that the production for the third kit announcement video has begun. Yeah, cheers to you. I'll not show it on screen because I don't like. I've got my reasons that I don't want to do stuff that would annoy the club. But I'm sure by now a lot of you have seen the third kit, and it's not my favourite. Although I will say this. Now this is probably our best kit of all time. Dare I say? I didn't even touch on this. It's beautiful. It's great. I'm just not a fan of the third kit, I've got to be honest. Home kit, brilliant. Away kit, masterpiece. Third kit, if you've seen it, not for me. But that should see us through to the end of today's episode. Thank you all a lot. Yep. Just before we leave, 100% the best kit I've had. It's up there. It's definitely up there. But I've just bought the new warm kit today. Looks absolutely class. I haven't seen that. I'll tell you for why. Obviously I went to Accrington. But they've got a lovely fan zone. And decent, So I didn't actually get into the ground, I've got to say. I didn't actually get into the stadium until like pretty much kickoff. So I haven't seen it. But I will have a look after I've come off here. Because if it's nice, it can, is what I'd say. Guilty as charged. Anyway, thank you so much to everyone that's jumped in the chat today. Again, come back next week. You lot make this brilliant, to be honest with you. When I first started this, I genuinely I thought 10 people and maybe someone's dog would watch it. But we're averaging, I want to say, over 170, 180 views per episode, with like you guys now jumping in the chat and offering up interaction. I did also worry that today's episode was going to be a short one, because we didn't have much to talk about other than Erhahon and Accrington, really. But we've managed to make it go 55 minutes, which is brilliant. So thank you very, very much for everyone. Hugh, Matt, Dylan. I don't want to forget anyone. Hugh, Matt, Dylan. Who else has been in the chat today? It's just you three. If so, that's some brilliant heavy lifting from you three. Brandon. I really don't want to forget anyone. I'm trying to go back here as best I can. Apologies if I've forgotten you. I don't think I have. I think that's everyone. I'm pretty sure that's everyone. Yeah, Brandon, Matt, Hugh, Dylan, anyone that's put a message into the chat today. Thank you. We'll be back next week. No, we can't forget Brandon. Of course we can't. We'll be back next week with another episode, hopefully. As long as we do something. I might even do an episode, and even if we don't do something, to be honest with you, because this is really fun. So thank you all so much for coming on down, and I will see you this time next week. Ta-ra.